Nuff Clipper, hi friends, Darth Momo here, and we're going to talk about Andor Season 1 again. Season 2's on the horizon, so I decided to do a rewatch. Obviously, I've talked about Andor before on the channel, and I've seen all the episodes before, but it's been a while. I haven't seen them since they've came out, so I decided to sit down and test out my little Blu-ray steelbook that I picked up last year and watch Andor all in one go. I've seen certain moments and revisited certain scenes in the time since they first came out, but I watched all these weekly, or I watched the first few when they came out together, and then the rest weekly. So it's definitely different to sit down and watch it all in one go, watch it and just appreciate it for what it is, compared to being in the dark because I've never seen it before. And it was a fun, positive experience. It definitely flows better kind of watching it all together. I don't mean to say that like it's just a 12-hour movie that got chopped up, because that's not true. It feels episodic, but at the same time, because of the structure and the way the story's laid out, sometimes episodes can just kind of end a little abruptly. So it's nice to be able to just kind of start with point A and go through point B. I mean, obviously I didn't do it all in one sitting. I went over the course of a couple of days, but as opposed to the course of 2 to 3 months. There's a lot to appreciate. If you watched my previous commentary on Andor before, I've stated that the first 4 or 5 episodes, I wasn't really into it that much. I was a little bored. Episode 3 didn't have the payoff to me initially that a lot of other people seemed to take away from that. It was really once they had the Aldhani heist that was when I was like, okay, this is good. I'm on board. And then the whole prison arc was just phenomenal. I mean, obviously, I still enjoyed those aspects of the show, but I started knowing what it was, knowing all the different characters and pieces at play, kind of knowing the overall story. It was easier to kind of follow along and get into it from the first episode. I love the subtlety of this show. Now, when I say that, the subtlety is a little difficult to appreciate when I'm going in blind, when this is all new characters except for Cassian and Mon Mothma, right? All new settings, all new cultures, dynamics, plot lines, etc. But now that I know all that, or at least the broad strokes of it from when I watched it a couple of years ago, going into it now, it's very much, I can pick up on a lot of the little things in there. I can appreciate the storyline more. I can find little enjoyments in the subtle, just monologues and conversations and moments and dynamics of the characters. And there's a lot of that there, and that was probably my favorite aspect of at least the first few episodes. The slow build up too, now that I know what it is leading into, the slow build up and noting all the little kind of pieces that are dropped in and the clues and the hints. It's a very carefully crafted show. And I appreciate all the little details and the work and the effort that's clearly gone into it and crafting the story and the finished product. Of course, obviously, Andor still has its highlights, but I still have some opinions that stay the same. Initially, I was a little underwhelmed by the season 1 finale because of just the highs of the prison arc. So I was curious how I was going to feel going into that. Now, I still think the prison arc was the kind of the top climactic piece of this show. The One Way Out episode was beautiful. It actually brought tears to my eyes. I just love everything about how they crafted that and brought that all together. It was beautiful. So well done. Andy Serkis deserves awards, awards on end. He put on a stellar performance. It was phenomenal. But that being said, I did still enjoy the season 1 finale. I think I enjoyed it a bit more this time around than I did the last time on the first viewing. But I still think I'm going to have to give it the crown of Andor to One Way Out, the 10th episode. I remember initially I was kind of like bummed that it ended the way it did. I was like, really, that's it? Like no kind of finality to it? It left a little open-ended. But you know what? Watching this show now and just appreciating the difference in quality and the difference in just approach that this show takes to subtle moments as opposed to, kind of the more traditional Star Wars show we might see in like the Clone Wars or Mandalorian, etc. I appreciate just the little subtlety of, we don't need to have everything spelled out for us. Just the little, Luthen gives Andor the look and he kind of grins and then, that's it. Like, we know what we need to know. I am very much looking forward to season 2, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this branches into and connects to Rogue One. Just based off the trailers that we've seen so far from season 2 and some of the commentary I've watched about it, I can easily already see ideas of how this might kind of turn in or twist and build up Rogue One, like almost making it a different movie but for the better, because there's more meaning and background behind it. But even just some of the details here I appreciated. Various things like how Cassian goes from where he is at the beginning of the season to the end. I really liked some of the details of the climb. I think that I remember picking up that one at least in the Aldhani episodes when they first came out. But in Rogue One, when K2SO dies and Cassian has to go get the Death Star plans with Jyn, he tells them, it's his final words, climb, climb, climb. So then Nemec, his final words to Cassian, when they're in the Aldhani heist and they're trying to get up with the ship to the asteroid and all that, is climb, climb, climb. And then in the prison arc, when they're finally having the breakout, it's climb, come on, let's get out, climb. So I hope they play with that more in season 2. That would be really cool. I also really like a lot of the subtle details with Mon Mothma too, and I really look forward to seeing how that story plays out. The only concern I guess I would say that I have with Andor is just for those of you who follow me, you know I'm a big Rebels fan. It seems like it's tiptoeing around Rebels a little bit. You know, part of this show, the wider narrative is just how the rebellion forms and comes together, right? And I don't necessarily see anything that's, you know, just kind of like thrown, obviously, I guess I would say, obviously kind of against Rebels, but just some of the stuff with Saw Gerrera is like, okay, I don't know about, you know, I'm a canon junkie, I'm a nerd junkie, right? I love seeing all the little small pieces play in. So like when Saw comes in with his haircut, you know, or with his hair, it's a little in the against what we see in Rebels, but whatever. But just also kind of the way that they're going about forming the Rebel cells too, because what we understand with from Star Wars Rebels, at least the first season, and some of the second too, is like, you know, the Rebel cells initially were very, and I know that season 1 is kind of on parallel timing with Andor, but season 1 was very much, you know, keep all the rebels separated. You know, they had Ahsoka who kind of, as Fulcrum, made contact, but for the most part it was keep them all separated. And then after the whole Mustafar thing, then it was, okay, you know, now we can kind of intertwine them a little bit. And then obviously Mon Mothma comes together and unites everybody in the third season, which I know Andor's probably going to touch on that in season 2. But it seems like we're almost kind of getting like a different take on that as opposed to keeping in line with what we've already seen. So far, nothing too big to ruffle feathers, but definitely got an eye raise. But we'll see how that plays out. But overall, I think previously I've given Andor about an 8 out of 10 or so. I would probably still stick with that, maybe an 8.5 out of 10. It's definitely a slower show, slower moments. There's a lot of characters in there, and it takes a while to kind of pick up on that. It was easier for me on the second going knowing some of the major faces, but I remember in my first viewing there'd be characters on Ferrix that I didn't really know what was going on with, so I don't know. I don't have time to, you know, sit down and study each episode as they came out. You know, I watch them and that's it, right? Move on to the next one. So, you know, I think for that reason alone, I'd probably still give it a, and that too, like I said, it's still slower in the beginning. It's just now that I know where the show's going, I was able to enjoy it more. But I'd stick with probably an 8.5 out of 10. It's a solid show so far. We'll see what season 2 has to offer. Maybe I'll up that ranking depending on how good season 2 is. But I'm excited, guys. I'm gonna try to get reviews out Tuesday night. Thankfully, I'm in Arizona, so you know I've got the best of it for the timing wise. It's 6 o'clock here, so I should be able to get. We have another show that we watch that comes out Tuesday nights on cable. It's a little hard kind of working around that. I should be good to get reviews out, but bear with me if the review doesn't come out till Wednesday. Otherwise, I'll see you back next week for Andor Season 2, Episodes 1 through 3 review. Thank you guys for joining in. Darth Momo out, and may the Force be with you. Always. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video, comment down below and hit that like button. Oh, and check out some of my other videos. I'm sure you'll find them in the light.